about this. I was going through an intersection straight, as you can see, towards the mountains, and I went through the intersection when the light was turning yellow, so I had the right of way, but there was someone heading the other direction that was making a left turn that was not, decided they weren't going to yield the right of way to me. They were going to go anyway, even though they saw me going through the intersection, and I had to slam on the brakes and swerve to avoid him. Here to see that how that someone just turned left again, turn left again, and of course the light's turning yellow there. And now this person, no, but look, this person right here, boom. See, almost could have hit him. Let me see the right camera. Let me go back and look at the right camera on that, if I can. Okay, here's the front. You see, I'm coming towards the intersection. Let's look at the right camera. There. Whoa, that was close. That was really close. You could see how close that vehicle came to me. Whoa. Here it is. Front. We're about to enter the intersection. And look at that. Whoa. That was very, very close. Wow. Sunrise over Anytime Fitness. Look at it.
Everything's pretty in Arizona.
Everything? You got your picture?
Yes.
Cool. You like the landscaping here? I don't think it's real. Denise says she wants to go here. Redmond Rocks? We're on the way over to Atlis Motors to meet with CEO Mark Hanchett, and we are going to stop at a coffee shop first. The Fix Coffee Shop, which actually might be in the same plaza where they're located, are very, very close. And we've been seeing, I want to mention, we've been seeing water bodies that actually have water in them. Like I saw a canal that had water in it. We passed over a river last night into Mesa from Scottsdale that had water in it. We're not used to seeing water. We haven't seen any since we left Dallas, I think. That's a weird shaped mountain over there. These look like orange groves, citrus or something. Okay, Denise says lemons. Alright, they're right up here on the right. Coffee shop. The Fix drive-through shop. The Fix. The Fix. The Fix. Parking or drive-through? We're doing drive-through?
Yes.
Okay.
I think you know by now what to order.
Yeah.
Think about time consumption when you're making these videos.
Of course. Alright, we are right down the street now from Atlis Motors. They're on Higley Road here in Mesa, Arizona. Alright, they're 1828 Higley Road. I think this is it on the right. This building. This looks like 1828 to you?
Yeah, it says 1828.
Maybe April. Alright, so here we are. Looks like vehicle parts.
COVID came like maybe, what, a few weeks afterwards. And then we've got people all kind of scattered across the U.S. in Florida, Wisconsin. Used to have one in Maine. He now lives here. This was taking him, and we could do this remote. We figured out
with
we
interns.
could do hardware development and intern projects and stuff like that remote. So we've got some very unique things that are in development there that are completely different in the industry. It's kind of unheard of as to the way we're doing this.
Wow, this place is big. Huge. Massive place.
Ani comes from A123. His specific focus is actually on battery cells and development of battery cell systems. And then Archit is doing packs, but he's more on the computational side of things, the science side.
Hi, Denise.
We set up, this is the one we just did the YouTube video on.
Yeah.
Cleaned it up a little bit where we did the test, was it 8 minutes 55 seconds
The first
for the
one,
demo? And then we just did 8 minutes 30 the other day, which now it's like give or take a little bit. 8:30 versus 8:55 to the average person is probably not going to matter much.
Right.
Whereas when you're going from an hour to 8 minutes, that's actually a really big change.
Okay.
The market, including Tesla.
Right. So what's going in? What's that tube that's going into the battery pack?
So that's actually a coolant system that's running through there currently. So there's a high dielectric fluid that's in there. We talked about, remember before we talked about submersing the cells in a dielectric fluid and what we're doing there. So that's what that's doing. There's a pump, there's actually a heater on that system, and then it's running it through the pack while the system is set up and running. So viruses.
All right, so they're going to run the test for us right now. We're going to see how fast it charges. Is it from 0 to 100? Is that what you're going to do?
Yeah, so it'll be 0 to 100.
Should I turn this on? Wait. Wait this on first. Okay.
There we go.
Alright. So this has a little bit of a head start.
So the one on the right is industry standard?
Yep, one on the right is the industry standard, one on the left is the Atlis Tech. That's
Okay.
here.
Okay, then.
So how do you, oh, I see the actual battery module on the screen is showing the fill. Yeah, the one on the left is going, your battery's going up fairly rapidly.
You guys adjust it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So another 1% at 42 seconds.
All right.
Turn it off for the phone? No.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. So right now, yeah, you're like a third full.
Yep. Whatever you want.
Yeah. Ionic resistance?
So the thing is, a cell has two kinds of resistances. One is ionic and one is ohmic resistance. So when you change the temperature of the cells, it changes the ionic resistance of the cell, and it drops it down. So changing the ionic resistance actually increases the amount of current it can accept and the amount of charge we can put in it. And that is the core that we use for charging these.
So how do you change the ionic resistance?
By changing the temperature of the cell.
Temperature, that's it. So you just have to, what, raise it, lower it? It has to be at the same temperature all the time?
No, so the idea is there's a few papers out there that corroborate that when you raise the temperature of the cell, it drops the ionic resistance, and our experiences with previous tech also does that. And it also, when you're charging, you do that, and when you're discharging, you cool it down.
Yes.
So
yes.
that brings back so that preserves the life of the cell when you bring it back down to the room temperature.
All right. So you want to keep it at a higher than normal temperature when charging, though?
Exactly.
That's what you're going to do. Okay.
So a lot of companies are doing that, but we are doing it more actively as to speak, and we are also working with a lot of charge profiles and everything to be able to accomplish quick charge.
Yeah. Let's see how it's doing right now. Almost half full. Yeah, that's great.
Architecture contributes to it, right? It's not just because More the industry standard cells are more aligned towards energy, high energy densities.
Okay.
This is a slightly different approach. We're designing it that.
Yeah, so the core of what you're doing is you're expecting the user to rapid charge this thing as fast as they can every single time, because they're not going to be...
Everything that goes in the cell, like your coatings, your electrolytes, your material choices, all of those are aligned towards quickly charging the cell.
Okay, so that's your customer, and then other electric car companies are more designed for residential users, consumers who are driving locally and not doing long distance driving for the most part.
So Mark has actually set the specifications for us to be able to design the cell from the ground up.
Yes.
And the battery pack from the ground up. So we are, I think, one of the only few companies in the world who's doing cells, modules, packs, everything from zero. So everything from the cell to the pack is designed in a way to manage thermals, to manage electrical connections, to manage quick charging, discharging. So that's why we are in a unique position.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, how's it doing? Like, that's just over 8 minutes. Almost done. Almost done.
Well, sure. Yeah, 93%.
It's going to be close.
So right now it's trying to balance all the cells.
Yeah, it slows it down at the end.
So it will just jump as soon as all the cells will balance themselves.
Yes.
So if there's one cell
You
that's
switch
still
to, I think,
discharged,
constant voltage. Does it do that?
Yeah, it's pulling them all so they're even.
No, it's just going to pull all the cells.
So it will switch to constant voltage and decay the current when it was topping out this.
You've only come in just under 9 minutes there.
So this one is at
Yeah,
20% on
20%.
95.
Now with this demonstration, once it hits 100%, it's not going to cool the pack. It's just for demonstration purposes. But
It'll keep cooling, but yeah, this system will keep running while it cools the fluid.
oh, it will. Okay, so this is going to be very, very similar to what you envision in the trucks.
Yeah.
Because it's got, if it doesn't cool it down, it'd just be sitting there destroying the life of the product.
Correct. Never want it to go above a certain voltage, even when charging.
Okay.
So even if like you're trying to pump a lot of current into it or make other changes, then you never want it to sort of like go above a certain potential across that cell. So we're always trying to make sure that we don't do that.
All right. And that's part of the reason why it slows down.
Yep.
At the end. Like.
Yeah. So what it's doing right now is it's just balancing between the different cells. Yep.
So they have that understanding.
Right. So actually, I just mentioned. I just wanted to tell everybody here on the video that my Tesla is locked in with a maximum of 90 kilowatt charge rate. So it reduces the time, or actually it increases the time of my charges because of that for the life of the pack. Tesla has that on every car, and I'm sure other manufacturers do that as well. But you all are throttling back charge rates, or are you for?
Not planning on it from a customer experience standpoint.
Okay.
So internally, the system will manage the cycle life and what that experience looks like, but we're trying to minimize that potential impact for the life of that particular pack or that vehicle.
Right.
In our case, the pack will last a certain amount of time, the vehicle will last a certain amount of time, and we're looking at that overall sort of lifespan or what that end of life looks like, and we're trying to work towards that consistent experience from day one till the end day, whatever that happens to be.
All right. So we're talking about the range.
Yeah, so if you look at Porsche, their EPA range is lower than, say, a Model S. But they actually, unlike the Model S, they outperform their EPA range in real world driving conditions.
All right.
So Atlis's approach is not necessarily to focus on EPA ratings, but focus on our customer driving experience. So we're talking about big, heavy vehicles that drive on highways, they drive off-road, they're intended to tow and haul heavy loads. So we're designing for that use case in that scenario. We're not designing for best case 150-pound person sitting in the driver's seat in a sort of fixed, stop and go city highway driving scenario that the EPA follows. We're much more concerned with what's the practical application and how do we design around that to give the best possible customer experience.
Okay, because EPA has there's no factor in there for towing anything on the EPA or putting in a big heavy load in there and driving around with it.
No, and when you look at like the way the drivetrain and everything is designed, much less the battery technology, it's designed for that best case scenario for the EPA driving cycle,
right?
Not necessarily for high duty cycles, high power outputs at highway speeds. That's where their efficiency curve kind of drops off.
Right.
Become very inefficient. That's why a Tesla, when you hook up a trailer to it, like you're experiencing, that range drops drastically.
At least by half, I'd say.
Yeah.
Sometimes more if I'm trying to drive at the same speeds on the highway.
Right.
Forget about it.
Right.
So 0.0015
On a train, on these giant trains.
on basically a train on rails basically has a rolling resistance of like 0.0015 or something like that.
Because of all the momentum, I suppose?
No, it's just the contact area that you have.
surface.
Oh, I
is
see.
so small.
I see.
So cars
So-
roll better than trains?
So no, cars are what's the rolling resistance in the car? It's
Not the rolling resistance. This is static resistance.
Static
that we're talking
resistance,
about.
yeah.
Static coefficient of friction.
yeah.
And on a normal tarmac, it can be as high as 1.1 if you are like if the tarmac is good, but typically it's around 0.8 to 0.9.
Yeah. You have to think like the top of the rail is curved, right, and you have a flat, basically, train wheel, and that contact surface area is so small. That's why people can tow train cars, right? You
Yeah,
see
what
those
happened with the
videos
Ford?
these
The
strongmen
Ford
where
ad,
they're towing
right?
like a massive, load or something with a big rope, right, and they're pulling this thing because they can. So when Ford did the video, and we don't want to knock Ford necessarily, but when they did the video, it's a little misleading because it's on rail cars. So the rolling resistance and the static friction is so low, it's actually very easy to tow that. That's why they had such a small tow strap there.
Right. Yep.
So-
Yeah, I get you. Because it's just going to go no problem at all. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. So a real world scenario would be put it on tires with rubber, with friction on pavement, right, and see what that looks like.
Exactly.
Pick up a chain and tow a big boulder or something.
That's got
across the
some.
ground. That's a gimmick.
That's some resistance, though, right?
Like not tow a bunch of train cars or whatever else. That's just, it's a waste of time and it's misleading.
Right, I got
the
you.
public.
It's not anything that would ever be done on a practical use of the car, and it doesn't necessarily show any real brute strength, I guess.
No,
Yeah. So yeah.
doesn't do much for you other than marketing.
All right, this was not a record pace, but it's still pretty good. Under 11 minutes. So this one's still at 27 and going, not even close. 38%, something like that. So you might as well stop it now, right?
If you're from
We're talking about
Michigan,
suspensions here.
yeah, if you're from Michigan, like I am, you remember potholes and rough roads and stuff because every year, right, the snow melts and the road gets rough.
I'm from
Yep.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
I'm familiar with all
yeah,
that.
driving a truck on those roads can be very painful. And then washboard roads and stuff like that. I mean, it's teeth chattering vibrations and stuff. So you don't need a bunch of ground clearance to do that. You just need a great suspension system, good shocks, dampeners, something that changes variably as well. But in our particular case, what we're really trying to focus on is dialing that in. So, like I was saying before, is that as the wheel moves up and down, we get as minimal camber change as we possibly can, but still maintain ride performance and handling and things like that. So you do want some, but you don't want a ton of it. You also want to minimize the toe of the tire, especially in the front and in our case the rear too, because it's a steer axle in both cases.
Really?
Okay.
So as that tire comes down, it's going to pull and toe in, right? Or it's going to pull and toe in at the top. So as that tire moves, it's moving in an arch, it's changing camber, and it's towing in and out as it sort of moves through that suspension path. So we're doing a number of things in the finished product to minimize that motion or to be able to dynamically adjust that motion.
Dynamically adjust the motion.
Yeah, so so right now we have a prototype drive-by-wire steering system in there. We've got another system in development today, but then the production solution that the guys are working on is individual control per wheel.
Nice.
So the right and left wheel are not tied together.
Oh man.
So we can change those dynamic characteristics based on your driving conditions or trailer load or payload in the back and things like that to adjust for that. We can also, in theory, you could do a remote alignment of the vehicle without ever taking it in.
Wow. Yeah, that's
Or
impressive.
dynamically adjust that alignment as it's driving down the road.
Okay, so all this is tuned and optimized for work use of the vehicles too. All of this.
So
right?
you have to balance unloaded versus loaded.
All right.
So a heavy duty truck today, or technically it's a medium duty truck,
Right.
or a light duty truck, they ride really well when they're loaded.
Mm-hmm.
They don't necessarily ride very well when they're unloaded.
Correct.
Because that suspension and everything is so stiff.
Yeah, it'll throw you all over the road.
Yeah, it doesn't want to move. So, and they're getting better. I mean, there's nice balances and stuff that are there, but we're trying to balance that unloaded versus loaded scenario and make improvements across the board. In kind of at launch, you sort of aim for that middle of the road like everyone does, but then through software updates, and we can continuously adjust that.
All right, so if you got sensors on every wheel and every wheel is doing something different, potentially, you can have the computers optimize everything while you're driving down the road, right?
Yeah, so in day one, you design for standard use cases and everything else in terms of configuration. And then as you collect data and as we make improvements, we push updates out that then allows us to make adjustments and move things around. But we have to do that without adding tens of thousands of dollars worth of cost
True.
to the vehicle. So if
So
we're
that's
aiming
another
for-
balance.
Yeah, if we're aiming for a $45,000 truck.
Yeah, you've got a great price point.
Right, we can't add $20,000 worth of sensors and technology into it. It doesn't work that way. So the steering system has to cost less than $500.
And costs keep
With
coming
more
down, so
components.
you'll be able to do it, hopefully, right? Yeah. That's,
What's that?
You'll be able to do it. Costs keep coming down as we go, right?
Well, cost comes down, but it's also your approach. So, don't aim for the best solutions. Don't use things that are super expensive, but also work through problems as you're going through it. So a best example would be we could buy a $5,000 sensor that would give us the most accurate measurement that you can imagine, but it doesn't work in real world use cases: dust, water, rain, ingress, temperature conditions. Think it's more like a lab sensor.
Right.
We're looking for something that's automotive grade, and then the real sort of technology advancement comes in the software and how we apply those measurements to algorithms and logic systems to give you an accurate sort of motion of the wheel or detection of